Sabaho everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to review the brand new Reno 10x zoom by Oppo. Now, this device offers us a very unique experience. We have no notches on this display. We have a full 6.6-inch OLED 1080p panel, and what it gives us here essentially is an experience or a look in towards the future where we no longer need notches. Now, in the current setup, that transition phase to whatever we end up being with at the end of 2019, we're starting to see mechanisms, and the Reno supports the shark fin pop-up camera, and that enables us to have that full display without having any notches. So I've been using this device and I want to share with you guys the things that I liked and the things that I did not like. This is TK and this is my Oppo Reno 10x zoom review. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you're always notified whenever we push out new videos on the channel. So here we have the Oppo Reno 10x zoom. You'll notice right there that the fingerprint sensor is beneath the display here. It is quite fast. It is very, very nice. But one of the things you'll notice right away is that we have a display that does not have a notch. Well, there is no presence of a notch. And that's because of the camera mechanism. So let's go ahead and open up the camera and open up the front-facing camera. Everything is basically housed within that little mechanism that we see here. It's called the shark fin mechanism. How you guys doing? And it actually houses more than just the camera. So the front-facing sensor is a 16 megapixel sensor that is basically housed within that little shark fin option. We also notice that the earpiece is sitting right there, as well as the fact that we have the dual tone LED flash sitting here. Now this is obviously going to happen, it will pop up whenever you're using that with the back sensors. Now the back sensors that we have here are a 48 megapixel sensor, as well as a 13 megapixel telephoto lens and a 8 megapixel wide angle lens. And when I'm pointing at them, that's not in the right order. But just keep in mind that the telephoto lens here enables us to go to up to 10 times hybrid zoom. And the fingerprint sensor works extremely well. Now, there is face unlock, which does use the mechanism on there. On the left side, we have the volume rockers with the antenna band. On the top, again, the shark fin camera mechanism that allows us a little bit of an opening here that lets the sound from the earpiece come up from the pop-up mechanism through to give us that stereo speaker. So we do have stereo sound on this device as well as Dolby support. One of the microphones, of course. On the right side, we have an accented power button that has a little bit of a green on it and basically one of the antenna bands. Now on the bottom, where we have basically the bottom firing speaker, one of the microphones, a USB-C for data as well as audio and as well as charging, and it does support Super VOOC. But keep in mind, we don't have a headphone jack here. Now, the SIM card here that we have at the bottom houses not only the SIM card tray, which gives us the ability of using a dual SIM setup, but it also houses an SD card slot, which is definitely very unique for anything coming out in 2019, even as far as basically being a flagship like the Reno 10x zoom here. It gives us the ability of actually having not only an SD card, but also the ability of using dual SIM if we want to whenever we're traveling. But again, very, very nice, very good. And of course, this device definitely doesn't skimp on any of the storage. As out of the box, we have 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of internal storage that again can be augmented by the SD card on the bottom of the device. Now, I know a lot of people will definitely be comparing this directly to the OnePlus 7 Pro as they both share similar aesthetics. Now, both of them have a somewhat 4,000 milliamp battery. I'm going to say that because this is 4,000, this is 4,065. This is basically a 6.67-inch display to a 6.6-inch display, both supporting the notchless display, both supporting stereo speakers. Now, both support fast charging depending on the technology you're looking at. We have warp charging here on the OnePlus 7 Pro, as well as VOOC here on the Oppo Reno 10x zoom. As far as weight, for the most part, they both feel about the same weight, so there's not much as far as the difference there. The resolution on the display on the OnePlus 7 Pro is definitely better. It does go all the way to QHD at 90 Hertz. So not only are we looking at an OLED panel, here we're looking at 1080p at 60 frames per second. Here we're looking at 1080p 60, QHD at 60, or QHD at 90, or 1080p at 90. We have the ability of customizing all of those, of course, within the UI. As far as the actual, overall organization, we do have the slider here that enables us to turn on the vibration mode or silent, and that is not present here on the Oppo Reno. Both don't support a headphone jack, but both do support stereo speakers, as well as the ability of basically having face unlock and, of course, a camera array on the back that enables us to use the 48 megapixel sensor from Sony very, very well, as well as a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens. But for the most part, still same kind of concept, and then front-facing cameras are the same, 16 megapixels. Now, I know a lot of people will probably be wondering is how are connection speeds as far as when it comes to using the LTE connected. Now, I am using it on AT&T right now, and I'm not running dual SIM, I'm running a single SIM, and I did a speed test this morning at about maybe 5:51 right before I started shooting this video, and I was able to get up to 32 megabytes down, and of course about 0.87, and it was fluctuating between about 1 megapixel to 2, and then it ended at 0.87. ColorOS is definitely very customizable. It has a lot of different unique things, on top of the fact that it has a slightly different experience as far as when you go into the settings tab. And what I mean by that is the organization of it is slightly grouped differently. You'll still get pretty much the same thing, your Bluetooth, your Wi-Fi, your dual SIM support, all of this stuff, as well as other wireless connections. As for we do have NFC, so mobile payment will be basically working here. The other thing that we also have here essentially is a second grouping for notification bar, display configuration, home screen, lock screen, magazine, which gives us the ability of seeing these little options here. Let's go and turn it on, and it does change basically ever so whatever you need them. As you can again see, the fingerprint sensor is definitely very nice. The do not disturb vibration and sound, we can go in there and customize it. All the options, dial pipe sounds, all of that, as well as the ability of customizing the Dolby Atmos and headphones for monitoring, of course. Last but not least, we can jump into the fingerprint Face ID options. So you can actually face unlock, which does use the front-facing camera, and you can actually just use it in. So let's close it, turn it on, swipe up, and it sees it and it unlocks the device for you, and it goes back down. Smart services, you can go in there and customize them for when you're driving, as far as smart assistant. Convenient 8 mode security battery, we have that 65 milliamps that are built in here, that you're able to charge up from 0 to 100% in about an hour and 20 minutes. Language and region, again, you can customize those additional settings. You can go in there for keyboard, find my device, search, download manager, automatic on and off, as well as SIM toolkit accessibility. And you want to be able to turn on the OTG functionality, which this device does support. It is built in here, but it does automatically shut itself off. So you want to be aware that if you want to turn it on, use it, and then of course, just basically give it some time and it'll turn off by itself. Last but not least, we have accounts and Google accounts, of course, app management as well as default applications. Clone apps, it does actually support a few. So for Facebook and Instagram that I have installed, it will work, and it will generate a second app application for you to be able to basically log in there and use multiple accounts. App split screen, this is just basically no different than standard Oppo customizations. 3 fingers up enables you to open it up, and you can go in here, you can go home. And what I really like about this area, it gives me the option of either going back to split screen or canceling it, and it gives that option as far as in here. You don't have to worry about it, so I can say exit, and it exited the entire thing. I don't have to worry about anything. Again, gestures are definitely still in there. And last but not least, we do have system updates as well as about phone. Again, I showed you guys, we're running 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of internal storage, the Snapdragon 855, and the model number that I have here is the CPH919 with ColorOS 6.0, Android 9, not 9.1, just 9.0 right here, and of course with the May 5th security patch update. The next thing I wanted to share with you guys is the game space, which is a really good functional area for us to use our device. And the really cool thing about it is it enables us to actually customize the actual device. So you'll notice right here, right now, it's going into balanced mode, and I'm able to go in there, basically go for network protection, reduce network latency, and easy answers here. You can go in and turn them on. And we are able to actually customize the experience to go. When you, of course, block banners, and of course the battery, how many hours left on this battery. Now I'm running at 80%. It's experiencing, or it's telling me that I'm going to be probably getting about 9 hours worth of gameplay. Pressing and holding in here, and just you can actually turn on either balance mode, low power consumption mode, or competitive mode. And that's basically where it overclocks the system and just gives us the best performance out of this device. Of course, blocks banners, and usage dropped from 9 hours to 8.1 hours. Full display without having any notches, so you can definitely see here, we can go all the way to the edges of the display, and there is no issues. Again, the camera mechanism is sitting very nicely here, and because that little opening that we have here on the earpiece, we have stereo speakers, and stereo speakers sound very nice.
Salah everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to review the brand new OnePlus 7. This is the little brother of the OnePlus 7 Pro.
And of course, as far as playing music, this is NCS Jumbo by Alex Scrindo. We'll go ahead and start. It definitely sounds really nice, and I've been using it as far as making phone calls, sending and receiving calls, text messages, and so on. There's been no issues at all actually of using this device. Photography on this is going to be amazing. And what I mean by this is I actually had an opportunity to go to the Japanese gardens here not that long ago, and I actually had a chance to give this phone to my son and allow him to basically take a lot of pictures there. I was helping him, of course, as you can see here. I took these pictures, and where I was able to find out that basically the camera itself performed so well, and his choice of imagery was so good that he was able to take a lot of great images, a lot of great shots. It's right here that they have a waterfall going over there. and he just enjoyed using it, and I enjoyed using it and sharing these images over on my Instagram feed. And he was basically playing with some of the reflections here in the water. Overall, how to get the best images, and right there he finally got the best composition, just showed the reflection of the trees in the water, and then of course the symmetry that we get from the bridge. We have video mode capable of going all the way to 4K at 60 frames per second, so you can customize here 4K, 1080p, 720p. Although when you select the mode itself, you don't have the ability of selecting the frame rate. You have to go into the settings tab and change that here between 60 and 30, as it is able to go to 60 frames per second on all three modes. So you can customize it here, you can customize what the volume rocker does here as well. And then when you're here, you just switch over between the modes and you stay at 60 frames per second. The front-facing camera, unfortunately, it is capped at 1080p. There is no other option other than 720p, but we do not have 4K at this point. As far as photography, again, we have HDR support. We do have filter options. We have portrait photography with the front-facing camera as well as the back-facing camera. And of course, here it just gives you the instruction to basically be able to getting closer or further away to get the subject set up correctly. As far as photography, we have the ability of jumping between 1x, 2x, 6x, 10x zoom, and that's just going to be macro level zooming level here. And then last but not least is going with the ultra wide lens. Now, of course, we have the ability of jumping between the 1x and the wide angle lens straight directly from using that button, which is really nice, because if you try to go the normal way, you have to go to 1, 2, 6, 10, then jump into it. So that's a lot of clicks when you're trying to take a picture. So whenever you are, whatever you want to do, just jump into the wide angle lens, and that's very nice. We do have some beauty mode options, of course, the ability to turn on the AI mode that just turns on the beautification option, as well as in portrait mode when we're able to go in there and then customize the different options here for original, grainy, and then just go in there and change all this stuff. Other than that, we do have, of course, slow-mo, Google Lens, time-lapse, expert mode, which is the pro mode that we have here, and of course, night mode, and panorama, of course, for all the different options. I'm going to share with you guys, of course, a little bit of a small sample now from the front-facing camera and the back-facing camera, as well as some images that I took from the Japanese garden.
The front-facing sensor on the Oppo Reno Zoom is a 16-megapixel sensor that gives us the ability of going all the way to 1080p 30 frames per second for video, but of course we are able to take pictures, and the pictures actually come out really good. The image processing that we have here, even with the front-facing camera, is actually very nice, and it's really conducive if you want to be able to take selfies, do vlogging, or even just basically use this to be able to give you guys a sample of the audio and video from the front-facing camera. Let's go ahead and switch over to the back sensors. Now, when we switch over to the back-facing sensor, the experience is a little bit different. We're able to go all the way up to 4K at 60 frames per second, 1080p at 60 frames per second, as well as 720p at 60 frames per second. So that's something that's unique to this device. Now, in video, we only have the ability of using to 1x to 2x zoom. So like right now, we're in the standard focal length, and what I can only imagine as being a slightly cropped in image, and that's what we're getting here. There is no wide angle lens here as far as 4K, and mostly because of the fact that that's the lower of the 3 megapixel counts that we have here. We do have a wide angle lens, but it's only an 8 megapixel sensor, and it's not available during video. Now, as far as telephoto, what we saw here, essentially the ability of jumping in, that's not really even using the 10x zoom that we have on this device. And what you get essentially is just more of a cropped in image, but again, you should be able to get great audio, great video, stabilized video from the Oppo Reno all the way up to 4K at 60 frames per second.
Now let's talk about the things that I liked and the things that I did not like about the Reno 10x zoom. We're going to start off with the things that I liked. I love the fact that it's a big display, a 6.6-inch display. It's an OLED panel. And again, it's not Quad HD, it's a 1080p panel, but I love the fact that it's clear and it's nice and it's easy to view indoors or outdoors. And it, of course, does not include a notch. And that's one of the other things I enjoyed, is the fact that the pop-up mechanism, even though we don't use all the time, it's nice to have it hidden. So in a way, basically, is if you don't take a lot of front-facing pictures or videos, you're not going to really miss it so much, because the sound comes through, you have all the same functionalities, and all the sensors that you need are all sitting at the top, sitting at the edge there. So you're not really missing anything. The overall experience, the stereo sound is really good, the display is really nice, the battery life is really, really good with that 4065 milliamp battery, and it charges up pretty fast in about an hour and 20 minutes. And that's going all the way from dead to 100%. So if you have anything else, obviously it'll be about less than an hour. And they do include the fast charger in the box. Now, keep in mind, the overall experience, what you're getting here is a ColorOS experience. It is definitely not as intrusive as it used to be with ColorOS. So ColorOS 6 runs really nice, and it is running on top of Android 9.0 with the May 5th security patch update. So A lot of really cool things. The cameras on this are absolutely fantastic. The software processing here is really, really nice. And as I showed you guys, it was great. I even had my son, my 9-year-old son, use this camera, and there was just no way for him to even take a bad picture. That's how good it was. Now switching it over to the things that I did not like, and this is by no means at fault of the actual unit itself. This could be fixed with a software update. First and foremost is the transition software or the transfer software. Oppo software is included within the device, and it asks you, do you want to transfer information from your old device? Now, the application for the old device isn't present on the Google Play Store, and even if you go in there and try to use the NFC tap to trigger it, to take you to the Play Store for the right app, it's not there. Couldn't even find it on APK Mirror, so it made it a little bit harder for me to transfer my data over to the Reno. So that's something you want to keep in mind. It's not impossible, it's just harder. The next thing I want to talk about is basically functionalities within camera. That's something that I wish we could fix in a software update. I'd love to be able to use the wide angle lens in video. It's not present right now. It's an option. It's available in photography. It's not there. The second thing is we do have a very powerful telephoto lens that we're only using for digital zoom or digital crop in video to 1x to 2x and not using any of the additional functionalities. And I would love to see some of those main benefits, all the horsepower that we focused on the photography side, bridge over to the video side so that we're able to use it. Even if it's not stabilized, just let us know. And then of course we could use like a tripod or something. If you won't be able to zoom in on like a distant subject and do a video, that's something that should be an option. And I don't feel like it's something that could be hindered from the actual unit. We just need the software update to be able to push that out. Other than that, it's an amazing device, very fast, Snapdragon 855, and an absolute blast to use. Definitely very happy with it. Would recommend it to anybody thinking of getting basically the latest and greatest from Oppo, and of course one of the main flagships of 2019. And again, in my mind, this is a transition point to devices that have behind the display cameras, no more pop-up options, and we were able to basically get that IP rating back. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.